Hi everyone, and welcome to Pit Stop number 9. Today we have Andy Newen back. How you doing, Andy?
So good. So good to be back too. This is like my third time back.
Yeah, yeah, I
Something
think
like that.
3 now. Yeah,
Yeah, dude. I love it, man. Thank you for having me back.
yeah. Of course, the last one we did talking about death actually has spoken to a lot of people, which is really cool, and glad that we were able to get into that topic. So, um,
Yeah, it's a big topic. I actually ended up blasting that podcast out to a bunch of people in my network, and
cool.
it allowed people to have a deeper inquiry about a topic that's, it's usually kind of a narrow-minded viewpoint, right? Like one angle. But yeah, it was a great conversation.
Yeah, and I think that's so important with topics like that, where you're told almost it's wrong to go outside of that lane, right? And so widening that up and having those different angles, I think is just healthy for people to do in a lot of different topics.
Yeah, totally agree. Like the topic we're going to get into today.
Yes. And so today we're going to be talking purpose, what it kind of means to us, finding it, people that are having trouble, and the nuances between purpose and passions, and if they're the same thing or if they're different.
Right.
And so I guess the first question that I have for you on your opinion is, why do you think some people struggle so much to find a purpose in their
Mm.
life, and some people it seems like they know it, almost from the moment they're born?
Yeah, I love that question. I think that for some people that struggle, I think the struggle comes in is when we treat or we tell a story around purpose being a destination or something that they need to achieve, right? And the moment we say that, we are automatically saying that it is way over there. How do I get there,
Hmm.
right?
Okay.
And that's kind of tough, right? To treat purpose as this like called the holy grail of sorts. And on the other end of things, people who have this maybe relationship with purpose in a little bit more of a lighter, more flowy way, I believe that they don't see purpose as a destination or something to achieve. I think they see purpose as a way of life, a way of being. Like, how can I be purposeful, right?
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, does that
Well,
answer your question?
yeah, I like that a lot actually, and I hadn't thought of it like that before. Right? Is because
uh,
a lot of times, when you hear purpose, or at least when I hear purpose, I think of achieving something. Right?
mm-hmm.
It's more of like a goal, and like you said, that end point,
Yes.
rather than yeah, living it day in and day out. So that's super interesting actually, and a really good way to look at it.
Yeah, and I think it is deeply rooted in at least Western culture of getting a career, getting a job. Am I winning or am I losing in life? Like getting more, like this consumerism mentality embedded in the Western culture around, I am successful if I achieve more. And
Mhm.
so I think that narrative has something to do with that purpose, that word purpose. And I also feel like that word purpose it's become very trendy. It's
Yeah.
become very trendy, and it's getting to a point where I feel like because it's so trendy, people just kind of see it for what it is on the surface, and they aren't going any deeper with it. Which is why we're having this conversation, man. We're going deeper with that word purpose.
Yeah, very, very interesting. And I guess again, another one then too, of breaking it down, of, do you think that a purpose, like somebody can only have one purpose, or can they have multiple?
Yeah, I love that, man. I think people can have multiple purposes. I think it's less burdening if we can just be with one at a time,
Yeah.
right? Be like truly be with one at a time. Um, and that brings me to something that you said earlier around like the nuances between purpose and passion. Is I think with passion, I think we can have multiple passions, right? But in one given chapter or season in our life, I think there is one umbrella of purpose for us in that season. Whereas to try to take on like 5 or 6 different purposes, that could be very burdening or burdensome for an individual.
For
it's heavy
sure.
for the spot, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. And I like how you said that of almost the umbrella for a season or a chapter,
Yeah.
right? Of you can do a lot of different things and it being more the overarching idea that's guiding you. And then once you move on to a new chapter, a new season, that umbrella can change.
Exactly. And so, may I give an example?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So an example is like for I work with a lot of men. I'm a coach for men, and I work with a lot of gentlemen, and some of the guys that I work with are fathers, and some of them are like new to fatherhood as well. And one of the things that they struggle with is, I have a career and a job, and now I'm also a father. What is my purpose? And I think there's a misconception. There's a misconception that purpose is directly tied to a career or job, and it doesn't have to be. I want to like just debunk that right now. It does not have to be tied to a job or career. I think that's one way of looking at it, and I think it could be, but that's not the only way. And for some new fathers, hey, maybe in this chapter for the next 2 years, your purpose is to be a great father. Yes, you have a job. Yes, you have a career. Yes, you're starting a business. But let's just say the highest priority for your energy and your time is to be a good father. And that's your purpose in this season.
I like that a lot. And I guess even the idea that, again, almost debunking that thought that your purpose has to take 100% of your energy, right? That if it's your real purpose, 100% every single second of the day, you're working towards it, or you're doing it.
Yes.
Where it's more of that, that I guess I would call it target, or what's dictating what you're doing, and not necessarily every single little minute detail.
Exactly. Yeah. Well
Yeah,
said.
love that. And so kind of digging into those of the nuances of the passions versus your purpose, how would you say, what are some other nuances, and how do you distinguish one? Because a lot of times, when somebody is feeling lost or they don't know what to do, and it comes up a ton with, professionally, if I don't know what I want to do for a job or a career, a lot of times you're told, well, what are you passionate about? Follow your passion, right? And just thinking about it now and what you were saying, right, of, sometimes those can get confused, of they hear passion and they automatically think, well, that's going to be my purpose. And so how would you distinguish between those two?
First of all, I love this conversation. And I would say it's so important because you're right. Like people think those two things are actually the same, and they're not. They're actually very different. However, they work together.
Mm-hmm.
They work together. So I would say I'll start with passion. I would say passion are things that we love, the things that we feel joy participating in, right? Whereas I think purpose is more connected with what you stand for in life, what your values are, what your principles are in life, right? What are some problems you want to solve in this world, right? Is something you stand for, right? So for example, and this is how they could be connected, okay? Let's just use a random character. Let's call him Steven.
Okay.
Steven is passionate about travel, right? However, if he were just to be like, hey, like I'm passionate about travel, how do I make travel my purpose? Maybe I'll start a hostel, or maybe I'll start a travel company, or you know what I mean? And the thing about passion is that, yes, they're things that we love. However, they're connected with our interests more than they are connected with our what we stand for and who we are as a person, like deep down inside. And the thing about passions is that passions are fleeting. Like we can have a very high interest in one thing one year, and then next year we can have another passion for something else, and that other thing might have just kind of dissipated, right? And so what if you started a freaking business or something around travel? Steven started a business around travel. He hits a roadblock in business, because that happens. Fellow business person, you hit roadblocks. Is the thing about a passion, and if you hit a roadblock, is it's a lot easier for you to just throw everything in, throw the towel in, be like, nope, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas if it's something that you're purposeful about, when you hit roadblocks, because you stand for it so deeply inside of your core, you're gonna have that extra call it fire or extra level of resiliency
Hmm.
behind purpose, right? How they are connected, and this is just my own personal story now, is I did, like, when I was 24 and I started my first company, it was a t-shirt brand.
Yeah.
I followed my passion. I followed something that I was passionate about. And if I were to look back in time and connect the dots, right? It's something that Steve Jobs says, you can't connect the dots looking forward, you connect the dots looking backwards. And when I
Yeah.
did that exercise of connecting the dots looking backwards, I realized that, yes, I followed my passion. The t-shirt company doesn't exist anymore. However, it kind of set me up on a path where I began to feel more intentional and more purposeful on how I was living day to day.
Okay.
See?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm rambling a little bit now, but
No, 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 no.
that's kind of like I feel like the discerning point between passions and purpose.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
for sure. That makes a ton of sense. And I guess the question that I have coming out of that is, in your opinion, do you think that some people's purpose they are not passionate about?
Woo! That's a really good question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. And I guess like more when I think about that, where that question's coming from is, people that are driven to do, um, to put others first, or to completely sacrifice themselves to a cause, or yeah, maybe it is something that they don't necessarily enjoy, but they're either driven out of necessity to do it, or some sort of call it quote unquote calling, but they don't necessarily enjoy it. It's not necessarily their passion, but it is their purpose.
Yeah, I love what you said there, and you just sharing what you did just now kind of also triggered a thought in me too. Is that I think with passion is more about us,
Hmm.
purpose is more about others. And I know that's kind of like a really generalized statement, but I feel that if we were to look at it from the macro point of view, it's like, yeah, like passion's about like what I love, what I like, what makes me feel good. Whereas purpose is like, okay, it's rooted in what I stand for. However, this is not about me right now.
Yeah.
Like take that Stephen fatherhood example, right?
Hmm.
Used. It's like, no, like it's about my family.
Yeah.
It's about my
Yeah.
family. Yeah.
For sure. And I think the thing that stuck out most for me while you were talking was, the point of almost passion is something that you enjoy doing. Right. And it's, again, going back to that, like for you, that it's just enjoyable. Right.
Yeah.
And, the purpose gives you that extra drive to step over those obstacles. Right.
Exactly.
But when you hit the obstacles and it's just a passion, if it's not enjoyable anymore, then why keep doing it? Right. But if it's your purpose, you're driven to get over that, to achieve it, to work towards it. So I love
Yeah.
that. And I have to say too, I felt like I had a lot more thoughts on this, and then your opening statement of purpose isn't necessarily the end goal kind of threw me for a loop. And so I'm still trying to work that out in my brain, but
Yeah, well, I would love to still navigate what you had kind of like pre-thought out too, because we can get into that, right?
yeah, I think it was even more so just the idea of like trying to find that endpoint to work towards,
Mm-hmm.
right? And more switching it of, if I had, and I guess I wouldn't even call it purpose necessarily, but this is a question and a topic that I ask everyone that comes on, right? Is about passion, is about purpose, because it's something that I've struggled with so much, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I mean, a big one that still kind of that's still true is I find it very hard to know your purpose or know your passion if you can't actually, let's say, live life for yourself, or you can't take that outside view on yourself,
Yes,
right?
totally.
And leaving room for yourself. And like for me personally, where that came in is, the last couple of months, called the last 6 months, with all these big changes in my life, I've found it. I've found more clarity in my own brain. And one of the biggest reasons being is because before that, it had always been living my life for other people. right? Of, trying to impress them or trying to show my worth to them, and always putting them first. And now that I'm putting myself first a little bit and going, well, what do I actually like doing just for me, not for anybody else? And it was completely unknown territory, and I still have no idea what I'm doing and walking around in the dark, right? But I'm
Yeah.
getting closer now. So
Yeah. I feel like a really good approach for somebody to identify what passion or what purpose means to them. Let's just say that, right? It's like, instead of asking ourselves, what is my purpose?
yeah.
We can ask ourselves, like, what does that mean to me? Let's start there. Like, what does that mean to me? I think another really good question, and I kind of mentioned earlier about like what we stand for, is like, ask yourself that, like, what do I stand for in this life right now, in this moment, right? Not 10 years from now, not 10 years ago, like
Yeah.
today, what do I stand for? What are my values? And that's really good. That's a really good platform to be in order to live a more purposeful life. If we can use purpose as a verb more versus a noun,
Hmm.
I think that's great. I think that's a great start,
Yeah.
right? To wake up in the morning and be like, okay, how can I be purposeful today in my life? What are some small things? Do I need to be more present? Do I need to keep my word? Do I, you know what I mean? Do I need to build out a schedule? Do I not? Do I just need to relax? Like, how do I want to be more purposeful today? I think that's a really good question. It's a lot to do with the inner work. And it is tied and tethered to what you just shared around it's got to be, it's got to be something about you first, making sure that you're covered, right? And not doing it for others.
Yeah, for sure. And so, do you remember when you started asking yourself those questions of what do I stand for? And even now today, like, are there some specifics that you could share?
Yes, I can. I'm going to go back in time a little bit to when I had that clothing company.
Hmm.
And I can't even like pinpoint an exact time or date where I started having these feelings, but we were selling a bunch of these clothes. The clothing company was doing so well. We were doing a bunch of pop-up shops. People were loving the clothing and all that stuff. And something like dawned on me, and a question that popped in my head was, okay, we're selling all these clothes. But how is this in service truly?
Mm. Okay.
Like maybe it was, people got a new t-shirt. They were inspired by a really cool design, but I felt like it was incomplete. I felt like it wasn't, there's something missing there in that thing, in that t-shirt. And so that was how my next company started, called Playfields. It's a jewelry brand that had a social mission. So the question I had was like, how can I operate a business, utilize the skills that I have developed and know, which was like designing, manufacturing, importing, exporting goods, right?
Yeah.
And like, how do I use that skill set and also give back in some sort of way? Do something, like not letting the transaction just end at someone getting a new T-shirt. How can we extend that transaction and add 2 or 3 more layers to it? And
Yeah.
those extra layers looked like a donation to a local charity that fed kids, provided lunches. That extra transaction led to running volunteer groups multiple times a year so that people can come into the kitchen and help make the lunches for those kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, it's just to like, how can we expand this thing? And it felt really good to me because it was more, that business model was more around who I was as a person, not the business itself. And who I was becoming in that season was, I was becoming a person that wanted to be more conscious about consumerism.
Yeah.
That was in me, like business aside, that was me. I wanted to be more conscious about consumerism. I didn't want transactions to just end with a purchase, right?
Yeah.
And then the result of that is a company that stood for a social mission.
Very cool. And it it speaks a lot to me on this notion of being selfish to be selfless.
I
Right.
love that. Yeah.
Right. And it's something that I'm still trying to work out in my brain of exactly how to communicate it. But of by you not feeling fulfilled, right, with it just being transactional, and you getting fulfillment from helping others. You're doing it for yourself to feel fulfilled, but at the same time, that is helping others, right? And not, not demonizing or feeling bad or trying to hide the fact that really, you are doing it for your own fulfillment just as much as you're doing it for other people.
Yeah, I love that. And there's also this aspect, if we're to go like even like one layer deeper, there's also this
Yeah.
aspect of like, I'm doing this to live a fulfilled life. And then the result of that is other people being fulfilled.
Yeah.
So that's one way. And then there's another layer of like, I'm going to do this so I feel fulfilled because I feel a lack in my self-worth or something.
Yeah.
That's like there's another difference there. It's like,
Yeah.
what is your intention with wanting to give back to be fulfilled, right?
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And almost that internal versus external, right? Are you doing it really inside because you feel it inside that you want to fulfill yourself and feel good, or are you doing it to prove that you're a good person to other people, right?
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
I've had to have that conversation with my business partner with Playfield, and it was a healthy conversation. It wasn't that we were trending in that direction around like needing that approval, but it's a good conversation to have to keep our ego in check. It's like, hey, okay, we're 2 years in. Why are we really doing this? Why are we continuing this right now? Let's just stay on the path, right? So
Yeah.
yeah,
Very cool. Yeah. And I guess even going and bringing it back to myself too, as well, of how that's been working in my life is I have felt myself almost pulling back the amount of space that I've made available to others to work on myself for the last little while. Right. And so that I can increase that overall space that I will have for the rest of my life. Yeah. And I've felt it just in the last couple of days, just like just by chance. I've had a couple of people reach out to me that I haven't talked to in a little while, and either going through something and whatever it might be, but giving that space in a different way as well, and them actually feeling the difference of this is different, right? Or you're breaking a pattern, or just that, like they were glad that they reached out to me and thanked me for, for being there, whatever it might be. But it's because I was able to pull back to, we say a lot is fill my own cup, right? Totally. So that I'm better able to help them.
Yeah, it's that air mask analogy in the airplane. It's like I would be doing you a disservice if I'm not treating myself with the same love that I want to give you.
Yeah, for sure.
That's so key. It's so key. Like I need to love myself as much as I love you.
Yeah.
I need to give to myself as much as I'm giving to you.
Yeah.
A really beautiful saying that I've heard before was, don't give from your cup. Give from the overflow.
Oh, I like that.
Fill your cup, and as it's overflowing, give from the overflow.
I really like that. Yeah.
Give from the overflow. Yeah. It's not mine. It's not my saying. I'm not going to take
it. Yeah.
Great saying though.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I guess going back to this, conversation that we were talking about a little bit earlier of, having that almost umbrella, that purpose for that chapter of your life. I guess another challenge on it would be, if that purpose does change, do you think that means that it wasn't your, true purpose? Or can you have multiple, actual true purposes? Are they bringing you closer towards that, one, or are they actually completely different?
I think it's completely different. I don't think there's just one purpose. Yeah. That's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure that we put on ourselves if we continue, or if we're stuck on the story of there's only one purpose that we need to like get to or, arrive at. And, that's a lot of pressure. I would say that the true purpose is the one that you're currently in. And then if the purpose shifts and changes, just trust that that purpose has been fulfilled. Right.
Yeah.
And then the next purpose that eventually falls in your lap on how you are and how you be and what you stand for in that season, that's your true purpose then. It's because at the end of the day, think about who we are, right? Like we are always changing
Yeah.
as people. The Jared 10 years, when Jared was 18 is different than the Jared now. The Andy that was 21 is different than Andy now. And so we have to be able to allow our purposes and our passions to flow and to ebb and flow with us and who we are and how we evolve.
Cool. I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot less, it's just a lot of less pressure.
Yeah. And
And we're also not hanging on to old things.
yeah, it seems to be a little bit of a theme, which I really like, is taking the pressure off of it. And I
Yes.
think that's huge, of taking the pressure off of finding your purpose, taking the pressure off of finding your passion, and just letting it be. Because once you try to force it, it makes it exponentially harder to find.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Like I would say my purpose last year
Mm-hmm.
was to unlearn to learn. That was a really big purpose of mine. I needed to unlearn a lot of old things that I've carried with me around like old stories and narratives around relationships, around mental health and all that stuff that I needed to unlearn because it served a purpose before.
Yeah.
And that purpose has ended and it's outdated. We're carrying old things with us. Right. If we want to get a little bit deeper here, for example, is like the work that I do at the Kings of Hearts.
Yeah.
We talk about this a lot, not purpose specifically, but we talk about old narratives and stories and masks. You've heard the term, like we
Yeah.
have different masks on, right? And here's the reality of it is, I'm just going to use an example of let's call it the Stoic mask, right?
Okay.
Let's say the Stoic mask is a mask that we had to put on when we were young, and living in an abusive childhood with our parents. We had to, for our own defense, we had to put on a Stoic mask.
Yeah.
And masks served a purpose in that season for us, right?
Yeah.
However, growing up now, let's say that individual has done a ton of work, has done healing, they're not in a toxic environment anymore, but they're still wearing that Stoic mask. That mask is doing more harm than good. And we got to know when purposes are done and how we have to take things off or let things go and just be like, return to gratitude and be like, thank you, mask, for serving the purpose in that time. Your job now is done. Thank you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's changing that relationship a little bit more too, of, sometimes those masks were required, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times they were. The problem becomes, once your circumstances have changed, you continue to wear them, right? And like you were saying, of, learning to unlearn what you've had in the past.
Yeah.
That I haven't thought about it that way before, but it makes a ton of sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Unlearn to learn, meaning like to let go so that new things can arrive.
Yeah.
Unlearn to learn. Yeah. Because like if we're carrying let's call it old purposes with us,
yeah,
there's not going to be a lot of room for new purposes, right? So another really good start for someone who's asking themselves, how can I be more purposeful, or what is my purpose, right? And it's like, if you're asking that in your life, I would start by asking you, what have you not let go of? And can you let go of those first?
Yeah.
That's a good start too.
Now, what about people that don't have that self-awareness, that aren't able to look at themselves and go, this is what I'm still holding on to?
Mm-hmm.
What do you have any strategies on how to help those people?
Yeah, totally. I would say, and I'm always going to say this, and meditation and journaling is like a self practice for them to do. Hire a coach or a mentor. The people that literally their sole job is to help guide you, like literally my career at this moment. Yeah. And or I would say and, not just or, and It's always the and factor. Find people to surround yourself with who are already doing the work, who are already asking themselves the meaningful questions, the deep questions. Find someone who's asking themselves, what do I stand for? Or what do I need to let go of? Hang around with those people because you can learn together.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
so
you
all
know,
of it.
one that I found, I think has been extremely helpful too is, in our men's group, is having those relationships as well, where, the people around you are able to tell you the truth and point out your blind spots. And that they're not doing it with an ulterior motive, right? They're not pointing, out your imperfections to make them feel better about themselves, or because they actually don't like you, or whatever it might be. That these people around you love you, care about you, and are doing it out of love. But at the same time, they feel safe enough to actually point these things out to you because they know that it'll be better for you in the long run than to continue on where everybody else sees it, but they don't want to hurt your feelings.
Exactly. I always say a good rule of thumb is if the feedback or if the pill is hard to swallow, that means it's meant for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
If it's hard to swallow, find some part of you that could be more open to that truth that you're receiving from your men's group or your community or your coach. Right. And that's another thing about coaches is like in men's group is like, they're going to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And I think the other side of that too is something, I believe it was you actually that brought it up, was trying something on, almost like a t-shirt of trying it on and then deciding if you like it or if you don't. Right. Yeah. And, almost using that strategy for maybe people that you aren't as close with. Right. When somebody even, gives you a compliment or trying to bring you down, of, trying it on, is there any truth to this? How does it feel? And then like, yes, I can accept that and take the positive or the criticism from it and accept that, or discard it, right? And not let it, bug you, and, kind of stick with you, affecting you for, days or weeks or months, if it's not true.
Yep. And I love that. And like you really gotta let that shirt land a bit.
Yeah.
Wear it. When like literally when you go to a clothing store and you try a new shirt on, you don't just put it on for like half a second. You're like, yeah. No, you put it on, you look in the mirror, you're like, okay, what do I like the length? How does it fit on the shoulders? Like, what does the material feel like on my skin? Like, same thing with feedback. Like, really sit with it. I love what you said. Like, ask yourself, is this true?
Yeah.
Can it be true? Is there something I'm not seeing here that they can see?
Yeah.
And if it doesn't jive with you, it's not a bad thing to be like, you know what? Thank you for the feedback. I bow to you. It just doesn't align for me right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. And so bringing it back to passions. So again, a very, very difficult thing a lot of times is find your passion, follow your passion when, you might not know what it is.
Yeah.
Right. And so breaking that down of, in your opinion, do you think a passion is something that just clicks right away? Like as soon as you start doing it, like that you love it, or, can it grow? Right? Can it develop into a passion over time?
Yeah. I would say if it's lingering in your mind, and you can't stop thinking about it, and it brings you so much joy thinking about it, that's a passion. Whereas if it just like clicks with you right away, and you're like, oh my god, I would say that's probably more just of like a temporary interest.
Yeah.
However, that temporary interest can manifest into a passion, right? I would say the more that we can be aware of our emotional body, the easier it is for us to distinguish between an interest, a passion, or a purpose.
Yeah.
Because it really is tethered into how we feel, right? I would say a purpose is less fiery. When I think passion, I think like very fiery. It's like, oh my God, whereas a purpose is very grounded. It's like, like through the good days, through the bad days, this is it. Like, I'm going to stick this through. You know,
Hmm.
this sucks at the moment, but I'm committed to this mission of mine,
Yeah.
right?
And I,
Whether it's fatherhood, or whether it's business, or whether it's a relationship, or whether it's whatever,
yeah,
or motherhood, right? It's like, it's very grounded. And interest is kind of like, oh, that's cool. It's, you know, it's very just like skimming off the surface.
yeah.
Yeah.
And just while you're talking, the idea of bringing duration into it actually really landed for me.
Mm.
You can enjoy something a ton and love doing it for a week, right? And, or you can kind of enjoy something and have it slowly grow and grow and grow where you do it more, but bringing that duration into it of how long does it hold your interest, right?
Yeah. And, you know, like, you know, we can take this analogy and apply it to relationships and whatnot as well, right? It's like, you know, at the beginning of many relationships, it's going to be fiery, right?
Yeah,
Okay, actually, let's start with, like, you first meet somebody and they catch your eye, interest,
yeah,
right? There's still something a little bit more there. You can't get your mind off of it. You approach this person, you hang out with them, go on a few dates, start something, honeymoon phase,
yeah,
fiery,
yeah,
passion, right?
yeah,
Now the fire can just dissipate, and that can just be what it is, a fiery, you know, relationship of sorts. Or you can begin, you know, that fire will taper off, and then you begin to have this more of a grounded relationship with its ups and its downs, and you start feeling, you start seeing that person for other aspects of them, and you begin to learn from each other. It's not easy, but you're sticking it out,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
I'm generalizing this, and I've never even said this before ever. It's just kind of
yeah,
coming to me right now. But that's a really good analogy too, right?
for sure.
Yeah,
No, I love that. Um, and so I asked you this a couple months ago when you're on the first time.
yeah,
Uh, what is your passion and what is your purpose? And I was just curious if that's developed over time and what it is right now.
yeah. I love that, man. I'll start with passions. So some of my passions right now are, I've always been passionate about the mountains. You know, the mountains provide a lot of lessons for me, of who
Okay.
I am and what I'm capable of, and also just the, you know, having that relationship with Mother Nature. I'm very passionate about that. I'm very passionate about European soccer. You see what I mean? It's like,
Okay.
I can,
Yeah.
you can have many passions, right? I'm passionate about men's mental health, right?
Yeah.
I would say my purpose, though, in this season of mine, is to continue to deepen my relationship with myself so that I can lead the way for other men to go deep within themselves.
Love that.
However that looks, whether it's, and here's the beautiful thing is, when you have a purpose, it's very umbrella like. It's not singular. It's
Yeah.
not it's not linear, right? It's not linear. And so I could be doing a speaking engagement, at a high school. Has nothing to do with my business,
Yeah.
right? I can do a speaking engagement, and I could be helping these, let's say, young teenage boys learn about mindfulness. Cool, I'm gonna do that. A men's group opportunity comes up on Monday nights. Awesome, that feels right. That's aligned. My inner compass is like, yeah, that's aligned with my inner purpose right now.
Yeah.
Boom. It's because it's what I stand for. I stand for deepening. I stand for learning and uncovering all parts of ourselves, the good, the bad, the beautiful, the ugly.
Yeah.
However that looks, however that shows up. So it's not singular, right?
Yeah. I love that. And it almost brings it back to the beginning of, your career doesn't have to be your purpose,
No, man.
right?
No.
And having that purpose can show up in all areas of your life. It can show up in your career and at multiple jobs, right? Not just one. It can show up in your personal life. It can show up with your friends, with your family. Yeah. So I love that.
Here's one more example. Is in this past couple of weeks, I've had two guy friends of mine in my life reach out to me because they're having suicidal thoughts.
Yeah.
Right? again, has nothing to do with my career or my job or my passions or anything, but this fell into my lap the past couple weeks, and there was this inner knowing of mine to be like, when are you free? Let's get together. Let's go for a walk.
Yeah.
Right? Like that to me is like being so in alignment with some sort of a mission in my life right now.
Yeah.
However that shows up.
Yeah.
However that shows up. And you know how companies have like a mission statement?
Yeah.
My goal is to get everybody that I know at least to have their own personal mission statement. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I think that's to have that and not to be attached to it, because that can change and evolve, but to at least know what is my mission statement in this season of my life.
Yeah.
Opens so many doors and opportunities for us to get a little bit more connected with purpose.
Yeah. Going back to that guiding principle that you're able to base your decisions on.
100.
And I guess just touching on what you're saying there, and you know, as I said earlier, I've been exploring a ton of just trying to find out what my passions actually are, what my purpose is, sorry. And mental health has been a huge one, right? And I think the most eye-opening thing for me has been making it personal. And what I mean by that, of the people around me that I care about, and finding out just how much some people are struggling and not telling anybody, right? That just how real it is, and how, you know, how many people have suicidal thoughts, how, you know, people that seem fine, you know, you look at them and they go, oh, they're strong, you know, they're driven, or they're happy, and finding out, you know, that you really don't know what's going on under the surface with anybody. And and you know, trying to expand my knowledge on that, and trying to see if I can help anybody, and how I can help, and how I can be ready to help if that moment presents itself. So
Love that, man.
yeah.
Thank you for sharing that with me. You know, like maybe we could get you on like as a guest speaker at the Kings of Hearts events or something soon.
Sure. Yeah, that'd be amazing.
If mental health is something that you stand for, and it sounds like it, let's open some doors, right? And literally that is coming out of you just sharing that with me.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
Boom. We'll talk.
Awesome. All right. So that's all I have for you today. Is there anything that we didn't touch on? Any kind of parting thoughts on purpose or passion that you want to say?
Yeah. I kind of want to just bring it back to something practical for people.
Yes,
right?
For sure.
You know, I think these conversations are amazing. And I think that if we close on a note of what people can do coming out of it, it will leave them a little bit more complete, I would say. You know, again, you know, my mission, right, is to help people deepen, right? But if we just leave it at a conversation, it keeps people in their head just thinking about it, which is great. But how do we deepen? Okay, so let's find some actionables or something that they can do. That's a deepening, right? Yeah. And so I want people to, whoever's listening right now, I want them to get a sheet of paper or something out, a pen, and I want you to write down these 3 questions that you can ask yourself this week. And the first question is, what do I stand for? What do I stand for in this life? And if you don't know, how do I go about finding out what I stand for? Right? And we talked about this earlier. Coach, men's group, community, journaling. Start writing and meditating, right? The second question that I want people to ask is, how could I be more purposeful today? Today, when your eyes open in the morning, when your alarm clock goes off, you know, you sit up, take a deep breath, ask yourself, what am I feeling grateful for? That's the first thing. Second thing is, how could I be more purposeful today in whatever I'm doing, right? Yeah. Even if I'm relaxing today, can you be more purposeful with relaxing? AKA, can I be fully in relaxing without being distracted? It can be as simple as that. And then the other question that I want people to ask, maybe not daily, but kind of like an ongoing thing, is, what's my intention? What's my intention with what I'm deciding to do? What's my intention with the phone call that I said yes to? What's my intention with deciding to go for a 30-minute walk by myself in nature? It's great that you go and do that, but let's add another layer to it. What's my intention? I think to create a consistent relationship with those three questions on an ongoing basis will get you a lot closer to feeling purposeful in your life.
I love that. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're super helpful. And it's something that like you personally have helped me a ton with, of getting out of my head, right? And, dropping into it. And we say dropping into your body as well, but, really just taking action on it and how important the action part is, in conjunction with thinking about it.
Yeah. The intention and the action.
Yeah. And just to share with you, like my two big takeaways from this was one, right at the beginning there, of your purpose is not a destination, right? It's not an end goal. There's the difference between having an end goal and having a purpose. And the second one is just taking the pressure off, right? And I realize now that I've subconsciously, that's what I've been doing, but I've never put it to words, of just taking the pressure off of finding purpose, finding passion, whatever it might be. And, being mindful of it, but not forcing it.
Yeah, I love that, man. My takeaway from this conversation with you today was the line that you used. It was selfish to be selfless, right? I think it's easy to label certain words with the negative connotation or antagonize a certain word, like being selfish.
Yeah.
But it's not all that bad if your intentions are clear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. And thanks for being on. And as always, it's a pleasure, and we'll connect soon, right?
Yeah. I would love to be on again soon. Okay.
Yes, of course.
These are awesome.
Awesome. Thanks again. All right.
Well, man, bless you. All right.